I took all the pieces and laid them out like I will have them when I glue them together, and everything seems to fit correctly. Now we have to figure out how big the bottom has to be. So I'll just lay these open. We want, the grain could go either direction. It doesn't really matter, but most drawers, if they're made of real wood bases, the grain's gonna go vertical backwards. But either way works, it's not gonna be the end of the world. So one of the dimensions is whatever length the back of this is, it's going to be that same dimension. So this should have been 13 3/8. So I'll write 13 3/8 here. It's also going to be whatever length the side is minus 1/4 of an inch. So the side is 14 1/2, so the base should be 14 1/4. And I write that down, and then I'm going to find some plywood to use for the bottom piece. Any 1/4 inch wood will do. Some of the places we go to find 1/4 inch material is down to the left of the upcut saw. I do have some here. This happens to be cherry. I have some alder in here, and I may have some in the back. Just ask. I also have regular particle board. If for whatever reason you just want some MDF for the base, that can be lacquered just fine. We also have white melamine. This is stuff we use for drawer bottoms when I do cabinet making. It works great because this repels water and it's pretty hard stuff. So this is fine. There's no grain to it. It doesn't matter. So take your pick, find a piece that'll work for you, and then we'll cut it on the table saw. The great thing about cutting this material is that you don't have to joint it. It's already got good edges. So I've got my cut list. I put it right there. 14 1/4 is my first cut. So 14 1/4, and no, it doesn't matter which one you do first, really. Again, notice that I'm never pushing it into the blade, and you can turn it. 13 3/8 is my other cut. And that should be correct, as is. I have the bottom piece now, and now I'm going to try to dry fit it together. But when I do, in this case, and I've already done this ahead of time, I found that this particular piece of plywood is really tight. It is extremely tight in that groove, and it won't go in. I probably would end up snapping off this little bit of wood to do it. If that happens to you, and some pieces it will and some it won't, take this and run it through the wide belt sander until it does fit. So I'm not going to video that, but just run it through once or twice. Take this board with you, and once it fits in snug, it's a little bit looser, but still fits in better, then you're done. I just came back from the sander, and I ended up sanding this 3 times, and you can see that it even started sanding through the veneer. Even if it sanded all the veneer off of one side, I don't care. I'll just flip it over and put that on the bottom of the drawer. But now, let's dry fit. Everything fits better in those grooves. And what I'm looking for is, when this is put together, are there any gaps in the joints that we put in that router? If there are, then the bottom is too big, and we're going to need to run it through the sander a little bit more. And we put this piece on right there. Whoop. And it likes to fall apart now and then. Okay, everything's in. Flip it over. So now I'm looking at the bottom. I'm going to look for gaps in each of the rabbet joints here and there as I squeeze. Can I squeeze any gaps out? So I squeeze that way, that's fine. I don't see any gaps there. Any gap that appears here, and it's hard to see on the video, but when I squeeze, it actually does go away. If any gaps are still there, take the bottom to the green jointer. It's right behind me. The green jointer is set up to take off less than the other 2 jointers. You're just going to shave once whichever edge is too big, and then put it back together and check and see if that fits. No gaps. We don't want any gaps here. Now you see this gap, but again, when I squeeze it in, it's going to have glue and clamps. It's gone. That's what I'm after. So next, we're going to glue it, nail it together, and be ready to, make sure it slides in and out of your table. To put the box together, kind of need to take it apart piece at a time. So I'm just going to pop the back off, pop off one side, and put some glue in this rabbet. And then just put it right back on where it was. Same thing on the other side. Notice that we are not gluing the bottom in. Do not put any glue in the groove where that bottom goes. Doesn't need it. It needs to be able to expand and contract and move a little bit. So we don't want any glue there. Then we stick the back on there and squeeze it tight. Okay, now we're going to use a nail gun with short nails. So these are the 5/8 nails. Don't use the really long ones, they tend to pop out. So if it helps to have a friend hold this, whatever it takes, push it in so none of those gaps appear. So everything is nice and tight, and you're gonna take 2 shots. Now see, the bottom shot is a little bit on the high side. I did not want to shoot into where the bottom was. So I'm making sure to shoot above it. Turn, do the same thing again. Push it in nice and tight and shoot it in. Good, now I see some glue squirting out, so I'm gonna wipe that off right now with a wet paper towel. If you lacquer wet glue, it turns kind of a yellowish color, and we don't want to see that at all. Now we handle the front. Now, I do not want to shoot through the front. It's going to leave a nail hole, and I don't want to see it. So we, on the side, press down, press it in, no gap appears. In this case, I'm going to shoot through the side, through this board into the front. So it's got to be slightly angled, just a little bit. So I put my gun on, and I'm going to shift in just a bit. Want to go a little high there, and it's angled in. So I do have 2 nail holes here. I can putty that, but now it's in and tight. Let's repeat on this side. Don't see any gaps, that's good. There we go. Hold it nice and tight, angle the gun, and there. And there it is. Now, if you still have any gaps, if it didn't all quite come out, put some clamps on it. Grab a few squeeze clamps and clamp it together. If the gaps are pretty much gone, you don't see anything, you should be good. Again, on the inside, I don't know if you can see, glue squeeze out right there. I'm gonna scrub that out. Check all the corners on the inside and out, get it all scrubbed out right now. Last step on this box, or at least making the outside, grab the correct putty. This one says oak, cherry, alder. Another one will say walnut, and the last one will say maple. So make sure you've got the correct stuff, because otherwise it's gonna be the wrong color. Grab a little bit of putty, and what you want to do is hold it here and squeeze down. Press down and squeeze it into the hole, and then scrape off anything else, any extra. So it's 2 parts. Squeeze it down, and then scrape it off. Squeeze it in that hole and scrape it back off. Because we're going to go back and sand all these pieces anyway, so we may as well make those nail holes disappear. Scrape it on and back off again. The more putty you can scrape back off, the less sanding you've got to do, and the faster it dries. You've only got a few nail holes. Now, of course, if you've got any cracks or splits or any other defects, you are welcome to putty those up. Knots like this one, it's natural, it's in the wood. I'm not worried about it, so I'm not going to bother puttying that right now. Just the nails for now. Anything else, you can do it if you need to. Mine didn't require any.